We're all pretty used to smart devices. They're on our wrists, in our pockets. But what about the biggest device we interact with every day? Our buildings. Today, we're going to dive into how modern buildings are becoming these massive data factories, and more importantly, how we can turn that flood of information into really smart, money-saving decisions.
I want you to think about it like this. Your building is talking. Constantly. It's sending out all these little signals about its health, its efficiency, its performance. So the real question isn't whether it's talking, it's whether we're actually set up to listen to what it has to say. And trust me, it's not just whispering. Every single day, a typical commercial building is churning out thousands and thousands of data points. We're talking HVAC, lighting, power meters, you name it. It's a total avalanche of information. But, and this is the big but, without a game plan, most of that data is totally useless. It's just noise. Yeah, it tells you something is happening, but it doesn't tell you what it is, why it's happening, or what on earth you should do about it. So, how do we find that clear signal in all the static?
Well, this is where having a structured approach is an absolute game changer. We can think of it like climbing a ladder. Each step takes us from that messy, raw data at the bottom to a clear, actionable decision at the top. It's really a roadmap for the whole journey. So let's start at the very bottom of that ladder, right at the beginning. The first, and honestly the most critical step, is laying the right foundation. And here's the thing that might surprise you. It has absolutely nothing to do with fancy tech. It's all about purpose.
We call this Layer 0 intent. Before you even think about installing a single sensor, you have to ask, why? Why are we even collecting this data in the first place? What specific problem are we trying to fix? The technology is just a tool to get the job done. The goal? That's your real starting point.
And these goals, they have to be specific. Are you trying to hunt down and eliminate electricity waste? Or maybe your biggest headache is getting slammed with those crazy peak demand charges every month. It could be that you need to get a handle on your carbon footprint for ESG reporting. Figuring out this why right at the start gives the entire project focus and direction.
Okay, so once you know your why, you can move up to Layer 1, building a solid data foundation. This is all about capturing reality. Because let's be honest, if the data you're putting into the system is junk, then the insights you get out are going to be junk too. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
So, where does this good, trusted data actually come from? Well, it's a whole network of sources. You've got your main power meters, for sure, but then you've got sub-meters for different floors or tenants. You've got data streaming from the HVAC system, from lighting circuits, maybe even from solar panels on the roof. The goal is to pull all these streams together to create one single, reliable picture of what's really going on.
All right, so we've got our purpose, and we've got a stream of trusted data. Now, we can really start climbing the ladder. We're moving from just seeing information to actually understanding it. This is where we make that huge leap from asking what to asking why. And that brings us to Layer 2, descriptive analytics. This is where the system takes all that messy data and serves it up in a way that makes sense, like this simple chart. And boom, right away, we can see what's happening. The fourth floor is chewing up way more energy than any other area. That gives us visibility.
But just seeing something isn't the same as understanding it. A good dashboard immediately makes you ask that next, much more important question. Why? Why on earth is the fourth floor, which should be totally empty, using nearly a third of the building's entire energy load in the middle of the night?
And now we're at Layer 3, diagnostics. This is the fun part, where the system starts playing detective. It connects the dots. It might see that energy spike lines up perfectly with the HVAC logs and find out someone left the system on override. Or it might compare it to a normal weekend and see that this is way out of line. It stops just showing you a symptom and starts digging for the cause. So far, everything we've done has been about looking in the rearview mirror, right? Analyzing stuff that's already happened. But this is where things get really, really powerful. The next rungs on our ladder are all about looking forward, through the windshield and seeing what's coming down the road. Welcome to Layer 4, predictive insights. At this point, the system has been quietly learning from all that historical data, all the daily, weekly, and seasonal patterns. And now it can use that knowledge to predict what's likely to happen next. The building isn't just reacting anymore, it's starting to think ahead. And look how practical this gets. Instead of getting a surprise on the energy bill at the end of the month, a facility manager gets a forecast like this. They can see clear as day that Wednesday is shaping up to be a high-risk day for hitting that super expensive peak demand threshold. Now that is foresight. But foresight is only useful if you actually do something with it. And that brings us to the very top of our ladder.
This is where all that data finally transforms into intelligent, decisive action.
We've arrived at Layer 5, Prescriptive Insights. And folks, this is the real game changer. The system doesn't just warn you that a problem is coming. It tells you exactly what you should do about it. It recommends specific, timely actions to make sure you get the outcome you want.
And this comparison just says it all, doesn't it? The old reactive way is getting an alert after you've already been slapped with extra charges. The new prescriptive way is getting a heads up an hour before it happens, with a simple, clear recommendation on how to avoid it completely. It's the difference between cleaning up a mess and preventing it from ever happening in the first place.
So we've climbed this whole ladder, all the way from a vague idea to a precise, intelligent action. But what's the real-world payoff? Why does this whole journey actually matter to a business?
Well, it really boils down to 4 huge pillars of value. First, there's financial discipline. That's the straightforward stuff, cutting waste, controlling costs. Then there's operational reliability, which is all about spotting equipment stress early before it leads to a catastrophic and expensive failure. Third, you've got ESG and sustainability, providing the hard, auditable data that's non-negotiable these days. And finally, governance and accountability. It makes energy performance something you can actually measure, manage, and report on.
And this isn't just theory, right? Everything we just climbed up that ladder gets put to work solving real-world headaches. It's used for things like optimizing those peak demand charges, making sure the HVAC is running efficiently, handling tenant billing accurately, and generating those high-level sustainability dashboards that the C-suite needs to see. So I guess the final thought to leave you with is this. When a building can systematically turn its data into intelligent decisions, you fundamentally change what that building is. It's not just a passive structure of concrete and steel anymore. It's a dynamic, living asset that can be optimized. It stops being just another cost on a spreadsheet, and it starts becoming what it always should have been, a powerful, strategic asset for the entire organization.